Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Okay, it works. Face won't show. Oh shit, there it is. Oh, damn. What the fuck? What the fuck? fucking small as shit. Bailey, get the fuck over here. There, Bailey. What the fuck? Get this shit. Got my crazy girlfriend watching me. Shout out to my only viewer, only her. Ready to get in the freaking shot, man. Get over here. Wait. I don't know what music to put.
Hey everyone, I'm Megan Kelly. Welcome to...
Call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great. We were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. And they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy. After that, we took the witness that witnessed the incident, flew him up there, and he identified as the person that he saw running out of the bushes and jumped into the car. Now, in the bushes where this guy was, is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of.
Joining me now, Buck Sexton, former CIA agent, and Bill Stanton as well. Both are former NYPD. Guys, thank you for being here. I want to tell the audience that while we don't have an ID on the shooter or attempted shooter at this moment, we do have a tweet from Carol Markowitz, who reports for the New York Post and has been on the show many times, with what she says is a picture of the man. We were told by the police he's 58 years old. We saw a picture from Carol. Again, we have not yet verified this. We have not heard law enforcement verify this. But she is down in Florida. She moved to Florida a year or two ago. And it does show a man appearing to be about that age, a white man. There's not much to describe other than that, but Carol's going to join us momentarily and explain exactly what she saw and how she has this photo. So when she pops in, I'll put you guys on standby and we will talk to her. Let me start with you on it, Buck, as somebody who is former CIA, and we've been talking about this for a while, what's happened to former President Trump. What do you make of what we know so far, and why don't we have more from the authorities now, since they clearly have him in custody, they definitely know what his name is, and they know a lot more than they're disclosing to us?
Well, there's obviously a lot coming in, Megan, and I think to call this a second wake-up call would be to minimize at some level what the threat environment has become, which is just entirely intolerable when it comes to President Trump's safety. I mean, we got the first time around by a miracle, and we were talking about that right after it happened. By some miracle, President Trump wasn't killed by the first shooter. This time around, the law enforcement response was better, at least in this regard. They shot before shots were able to be fired at President Trump on the golf course, but it does seem that there's clearly not enough advanced security work being done by Secret Service. I was very clear before when I came on after the first, now we have to put numbers to them, right? The first assassination attempt, the second assassination attempt. After the first assassination attempt, it was quite clear that Secret Service failed miserably, and of course the Secret Service director ended up being fired as was well deserved, and there are others who I believe have been put on essentially in paid leave.
Well, wait though, was she officially fired, or was she allowed to resign?
She resigned under pressure.
That's part of the, but that's part of the irritating, to put it mildly, things about what we're watching here. The accountability or lack thereof. Go ahead. Sorry, finish your thought.
Nobody in D.C., as you know, Megan, is really fired. They're all told, you resign or I'm about to fire you.
But she deserved to be fired. Yes, I know, but some people deserve to be fired. This is actually a point Donald Trump was making at the debate the other night. That they don't fire anybody in this administration. Only he fires people. Sorry, keep going.
No, it's fine. I mean, just from a security perspective, let's just take a look at what we know what happened. And first of all, something bizarre occurred in the reporting of this. I live in South Florida. I live in Miami Beach, and I have a lot of friends, including Carol Markowitz, who will be with us shortly, who are down here. We have tons of contacts in law enforcement. We know, when you're closer to these things, you hear about them more quickly. Long before this hit the wires, I was getting text messages. I think someone just took shots at Trump again, right? And then there was this reporting after it broke publicly, oh no, they weren't intending to hit President Trump. How there was this period of time for about an hour, I think, today, where that was the story. I want to know how that came up. That's just utterly bizarre. The Trump golf course is in a pretty nice part of West Palm Beach. Not a lot of shootouts in broad daylight, in the early afternoon.
With an AK-47.
With an AK-47 with a scope on it. I mean, it's not, so something was very weird with that. I can't give you more other than that just seems completely bizarre in retrospect. Look, Secret Service fired before he could be fired upon this time, but how somebody could get within the effective range of a scoped AK-47 and be in a position to threaten the life of President Trump a couple of months here before, less than 2 months before the election, after what happened here, it's a massive challenge, I think, to the security situation, or rather, a massive challenge to those who think the security situation is in hand. And just beyond that, Megan, the politics of this are you can't separate them. I mean, they've been saying President Trump is a threat to democracy and will destroy the country if he wins again. And they keep saying it even after he took a bullet in the ear. And now another lunatic probably decided, hey, I'm going to save the country and be a hero because I'm a psychopath and I'm going to try to assassinate a president. We're in a very high threat environment, and the rhetoric from the Democrats is completely irresponsible about this stuff, and they have not changed at all, even after Trump was shot.
Here is a discussion, a Q&A with the local authorities when they just had a presser on why President Trump did not have more Secret Service protection. A man who already almost had his life taken 2 months ago.
How was this able to happen, and for future reference, is there any security in the golf course?
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery, so when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right, and at this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around him. But because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little bit more people around the perimeter.
Unbelievable, Bill. So he's the former president, so he doesn't have adequate Secret Service to meet the moment, which, I guess if you're talking about like George W. Bush, that maybe that would make some sense. But he literally almost got shot in the brain 2 months ago.
We were talking about this, and you were one of the first on air, Megan. It was literally a couple of hours afterwards, before the press, as I call them, tried to suppress the real information. What you're seeing here is overall lethargy. I think the Secret Service needs a total audit from the top down, bottom up, and they have to get squared away correctly. My understanding, when that report comes out, it's going to show glaring mistakes and just, I guess, complacency and lethargy in how they act and react. The fact that they didn't get this guy, that he got that close, is a prime example of how desperately the Secret Service, while they're individually, I think they're willing to put their lives on the line, as an institution, as an agency, they really need an overhaul.
It is unbelievable to me that they wouldn't have beefed up his Secret Service protection to the point where it equaled that of the sitting president of the United States, speaking of whom, no statement from him. We've gotten a statement from Kamala Harris. We've gotten one from J.D. Vance. So far, absolutely nothing from the sitting president of the United States. Is he there? Does he know that this has happened? We have no idea. Guys, stand by. Okay, just stand by 5 minutes. Carol's here. I want to bring her on. I don't want to lose you two, but I want to hear from her because she's got more information than anybody else does on this, at least so far. Okay, Carol Markowitz, thank you for joining us. You've got this picture of what you say is the shooter. Do we have a name? Because I'm now seeing one reported online.
We do. His name is Ryan Ruth. That name is the name that I have, and that is a
R-O-U-T-H. R-O-U-T-H. Okay, so this is Carol breaking this picture of him. Ryan Ruth, just for the listening audience, it is a man in what appears to be a peach or a pink shirt, which looks like it's being pulled up over his head. He's got sunglasses on the top of his head. He looks skinny. He's got some sort of blue pants or jeans worn low. And he looks like his age of about late 50s. They said 58. Go ahead, Carol. So tell us what you know.
So I know that he somehow managed to escape from West Palm Beach from the golf course, and they got him nearby. His social media is largely about foreign affairs. He talks a lot about recruiting people to go fight in Ukraine. He has some anti-Israel posts about how Jews were not native to the land, and that's basically the story with him. He doesn't have anything about Donald Trump, nothing about Kamala Harris that I've seen. Although, of course, this is all very early, and maybe he has multiple accounts, and we're going to find out more as the story progresses.
It's really interesting to me that this guy is 58 and not 22, right? How many times have we seen in these mass shootings that it's a young man between the ages of 18 and 25 who we later find out snapped in some way, had schizophrenia, had a mental break. 58 is different. I'm sure they know by this point in local law enforcement or the FBI whether this guy's got a history of mental health issues. But in scouring the social media, or what you know of the social media, does he sound like a lunatic? What does he, or does he just sound like a politically charged guy?
He definitely sounds, I'm not a medical health professional, this is completely my opinion, but he sounds off. He's recruiting people to go to war in Ukraine. He's saying he needs Afghan soldiers to go. It's sort of all over the place.
Telling him like, hey, freeze.
So you got this picture from law enforcement or from somebody close to law enforcement, I assume? And did you get any other details about what's likely to happen to this guy now, or what is happening to him?
I don't have any other details other than the photo and the social media account that I posted some information about. That's it. That's all that I have.
Have they pulled it yet, Carol? I haven't had a chance to go look at it since we got his name.
It just broke. His name just came out just as we were going on, so I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. It's crazy the amount of information that's coming at us, but we're glad. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for tweeting out the photo. It may be the only look we get at this guy for some time. You're the best, Carol Markowitz. What a remarkable get. Good for her. It just goes to show you, you develop your sources, you work your sources, you develop trust in your sources, and ideally your sources will trust you in a time like this, and that's exactly what just happened to Carol. Back to Bill and Buck now. From the presser that they had moments ago, they said, yes, there's an agent who goes one hole ahead of the president at a time. In this case, it was a couple of holes ahead. And this guy was able to spot the man with the rifle sticking out of the fence, the rifle sticking out of the fence. And that suggests to me, Bill Stanton, that he might not have been on the course. I don't know what the course looks like. But if there's a fence and the rifle's sticking out of it, it sounds like this guy might have been on the other side of the fence. I'm really not clear because it looks like he ran and he successfully ran. He did escape capture from the cops initially.
Yeah, I actually live out in Palm Beach part-time, and I'm supposed to leave today. I'm going to go check that area out. And to your point, he obviously wanted to take a shot at the president. This now seems to be in vogue. And understand the volatile rhetoric. When you say, if you're a politician and you're saying that President Trump is an existential threat, they call him Hitler. These people view themselves, every bad guy doesn't view themselves as a bad guy. He's looking at himself, I'm guessing, as a savior. And they essentially, all these people that are calling President Trump Hitler, he cannot get elected. You are, in effect, putting a target on his chest. And this needs to be addressed both by the politicians and by the Secret Service by enhancing security many times over.
But before I go back to Buck, can you tell me, Bill, how does a guy in the United States get his hands on an AK-47? I mean, if that's in fact what this guy had, that is a true weapon of war. That would be illegal in all 50 states. Nowhere is that a lawful weapon for an American citizen to have.
Well, if it's a full auto, they make AK-47 semi-auto light. They make ARs that are semi-auto. They make ARs that are 9mm. I own one of them. So we don't know the true make and model. But if it is, and true, AK-47, that can go from single to semi-auto to full auto, unless he has some specific licenses that allow him, unless he has a federal firearms license, then he's committed. Got it on the black market, under the table, he shouldn't have it at all. To be walking around with an AK-47, if this is accurate, and that no one's seen him until that rifle was spotted through the fencing, that's a big glaring faux pas, in my opinion.
Oh my God, because Buck, it's like this guy, it seems like he drove up to the hole. This is my speculation, again, just based on they said that the gun was coming through the fence, and the Secret Service spotted it. Drove up to the hole, whipped out an AK-47, and was lying in wait for the former president of the United States to walk by. By some miracle, these Secret Service agents actually saw the gun coming through the fence, which probably wasn't that easy to spot because they said it was through the bushes, and chased the guy, at some point opened fire on the guy, and yet the guy nonetheless made it away. I mean, this is it's too easy.
Here's I think the recognition, Megan, that is dawning upon everybody right now. Did we really learn anything from the first assassination attempt? Have they taken security much more seriously for President Trump in the aftermath of him taking a bullet through the ear that was an inch away from killing him? You see this, and I know they're going to say that this is a movement that I think the reports are that it's off schedule, so the public wouldn't know about this. But in West Palm, this guy's on this golf course. Trump is on this golf course all the time, and everybody who lives in this area, Bill knows this. You know where the president is because there's a bunch of Secret Service guys around, and it's not hard to figure out that there's pattern analysis at work here for this bad guy to understand when President go. It's a Sunday. President Trump's probably going to be golfing, and this is where he's going to be golfing. You can even see that Trump Force One is parked at the Palm Beach Airport, and you know that he's around, right? So it's not hard to figure out where he's going to be. That they would treat this as meaning the golf course in this area as somehow not worthy of the absolute highest level of security, as though we were having a public event, is crazy. And I think that that's what we're going to find out happened here. It sounds like the guy went up the fence with an AK-47, and if he had been able to get shots off on the president, we could be facing the same tragedy that was unthinkable 2 months ago could have happened today. Look, Secret Service got 4 to 6 shots off, depending on, according to the press conference. I'm wondering if it was with a sidearm or a long gun, 4 to 6 shots not hitting the target from the advance team. That's not particularly precise work. Curious to know what happened there. They're also firing in an urban area. You generally want to actually hit your target. But I do think that there was probably a sense from these Secret Service officers who were out the hole in advance of President Trump. We're not going to wait and call this in and call it back in. And there's a guy with a gun trying to kill the president. We're going to fire. That is progress compared to what we saw in Pennsylvania. Limited progress, but it's progress to be sure. And now I think you're going to see more and more people asking, how can the president feel safe doing anything at this point? If he can't golf on a Sunday in what is effectively his backyard on a course that he owns, after he's already, we already got the warning, right? We already got the wake-up call the first time around. Did we heed that? Who's in charge of the resources at DHS for the Secret Service detail? Have they dramatically ramped up? How could this be a dramatically ramped up? Megan, one of the problems from the first assassination attempt was that it told every lunatic across the world, but certainly across America, that it's not that hard to get a shot off on President Trump. In fact, it's not hard at all. And now you have other people who are thinking, gee, I could probably do the same thing, and that's what happened with this individual. Not to mention that we now have a second guy who has very limited, it seems, social media presence online. Not going to be talked about that much. Maybe we'll find out a lot more information. I know it's early in that whole part of the process, but we certainly didn't find out very much at all about the first shooter, other than he was able to get multiple aim shots off at President Trump. So this is another failure of security, to be sure. I mean, the guy got a loaded gun with a scope on it at the golf course when President Trump is there and had to be fired upon in order to stop him from taking shots at the president. There's this term, just real quick. Bill, you're very patient with me. I'm sorry. I'm very fired up about this. But there's this term, stochastic terrorism, that the left often uses, Democrats often use, which is borrowed from mathematics, and it's effectively statistically likely but uncertain, right? As in, it's going to happen. You don't know who's going to do it. You don't know when it's going to happen. But if you have enough in the air, if you have enough numbers, so to speak, it's going to. They say this whenever something bad happens to somebody that they can pin on Donald Trump. They'll say, oh, a person somewhere did a hate crime. It's stochastic terrorism from Trump. Megan, they've been telling half the country that President Trump is going to end the republic. And I don't mean they as in crazy people in internet chat rooms. CBS News CNN, the New York Times. They are saying President Trump is, Bill said it, Hitler, a fascist, going to end the country. If they really believe that, how is that not directly encouraging exactly what we are seeing again? No one's taken a shot at a president in 40 years since Reagan. Now we've had 2 in 2 months. I think, sorry, but you know, I think we're all recognizing what's going on here. Yeah, that's perfect for that, but we're recognizing that this is not going to stop.
For the listening audience, when Buck did the tune number, it caused the balloons to go
Balloons
up.
went off. Sorry about that, everybody.
His YouTube feed, his Zoom feed, that happens sometimes, the weirdness of technology. I do want to underscore something about this man's name. Carol reported it with her source, who we are presuming is someone in law enforcement. That's the only person who would have had that shot of his body with his arms going up. And it's all over online now, but to be clear, we have not yet had official law enforcement officers or sources come out and confirm that that is the picture or the name, as we reported a moment ago. So we'll see. They'll come and they'll tell us who it is. If it is that man, as reported, he does have bizarre tweets. There's one complaining that Trump would never go and do anything for the injured people at his first assassination attempt, and urging Kamala Harris to go. I'm not going to get into specifics until we know whether this is him and read specific tweets word for word. But, you know, the irony, of course, is that Trump got hit this week for letting it slip that he had given $1 million to the family of the fallen firefighter who got shot at his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, when they took a shot at Trump. It's okay. So I haven't looked into that. I don't know whether that's true, but my point is simply Trump did do something for the family. Trump is always said to be some sort of a demon by people who don't know or understand the man. He's controversial, that's true. But at least half of that is because of the way the media chooses to cover him so irresponsibly, right? Suggesting, for an example, that he's this far-right extremist on abortion, which he's the most moderate Republican president on abortion, I think, in U.S. history. Yes, he appointed these 3 judges. Look, find me a Republican who appointed a judge who is not pro-life to the U.S. Supreme Court. It didn't happen. My point is simply, they're always irresponsible when it comes to Trump rhetoric, and it makes its way into the bloodstream of the populace. And that's not to say that anybody who said one specific thing is directly responsible for this nutcase, whether he's clinically nuts or not, is irrelevant for the purposes of this discussion. But of course, it makes its way into this guy's bloodstream and social media feed and so on. And the next thing we know, as Buck just said, 2, not 1, but 2 in 2 months. Bill, I want to bring it back down to you for 1 second, because one of the things, you know, law enforcement is going to be looking at right now is whether he was working with anyone, whether he had any sort of an accomplice. You know, how do they even begin to start figuring that out?
Well, they're going to do a full scrub of his telephonic, texts and phone calls. They're probably already in his social media, his cell phone. They're going to do that. What my first inclination, my knee-jerk reaction here is what the far left is doing is they're making people become self-radicalized. Just like the terrorists are doing, out in the Middle East, where they hope to self-radicalize acts of terrorism. That's what we kind of sort of see going on here. Buck would know a lot more of that than I, where you give enough, as you put, into the bloodstream of these people, some of them that obviously have mental illness, and they take it upon themselves to save the republic, because we will lose the republic if this person ever gets reelected as president. That's what's being put out in the zeitgeist, and they are taking all that hate and rhetoric from the cyber world, and they're transposing it into the real one. They get their hands on a weapon, and unfortunately, based on history, it's not going to stop with 2. And that's what's really scary.
Add to what Bill's saying, just real quick, Bill. I think you're making a really key point. But the people that are being radicalized, they're being radicalized by watching CBS Evening News or CNN or reading the New York Times. That's the right. This isn't Anwar al-Awlaki videos that you have to go into some special chat room and know the password and get asked Quranic verses so that they know you're not a Fed, right? This is the most mainstream of mainstream. Trump is a threat to the republic. Trump is an autocrat. Trump needs to be stopped. That's what they're saying, right? I mean, this is the problem, is that it's not coming from the fringe at all.
And how long did it pause after assassination attempt number 1, Buck? About 1 week? It got him through his convention. That was it. It resumed immediately thereafter.
Yeah, well, this is the narrative they have sold to Democrats, and I think it's the only way that they can create this delusion of a moral high ground as they shove aside old man Biden without actually having Kamala Harris win a primary vote, a single primary vote, and then have her lie about every position she's taken for the last, 2 decades, and present herself as some kind of an enigma that we can figure out the reality of who she is after the election. It's because Donald Trump, all these phrases,
I'm watching a
existential
video on my
threat,
phone on how to fucking
end of the
install this
republic,
game.
undermining our institutions, an autocrat, a fascist. We've all seen this, and these are on the covers of magazines from supposedly intellectual and serious publications. They're neither intellectual nor serious, but that's at least the reputation among Democrats. And I don't think that it's a coincidence at all that they all of a sudden are changing. You know, that changed their tune for a few days. They go back to this, and I think this has kind of been the strategy, quite honestly, is that they're going to continue to demonize him, and they're going to continue to push that he is awful, because otherwise they'd have to turn around and look the Democrats in the eye and say, we've been lying to you, not just for 4 years,
We're
but
going to click on File, then we're going to go over to the tab that says Install Packages, Wraps, and EDAP. Now, once we do that, you're going to see the PKG file and the wrap file. I always install the small one first, which is the wrap file. So highlight it, click open, then scroll.
really from the beginning of the Trump presidency. I think it's reckless, Megan, and I think that there should be a backlash against this kind of stuff. I would never go on the air, you would never go on the air, Bill would never go on the air and say, you know, Kamala Harris wins and the Republic is over and she's a fascist who's going to destroy all of America. But that is absolutely mainstream to the Democrat side of things. Nothing is too far. They've brought criminal prosecutions against him. They say that he's a rapist. They say that he's a traitor. They say that he's a Russian asset. They've really run out of epithets for Donald Trump at this point. And they wonder that there are lunatics who are going to try to act on this. I mean, the problem the Democrats face is they've created a construct where people who believe what the New York Times is saying believe that force against Trump is moral. This is what's happening. This is now twice in 2 months. These aren't just people that have some random bone to pick with the president. They think they are acting to stop because they're a little crazy, but they're watching the New York Times. They're reading the New York Times. They're watching CNN, and they're acting on it. And this is a rare event, right? We've talked about this. No one's been shot since Reagan in 40 years. Trump has now been shot and shot at again, twice in 2 months, right before the election. That we're supposed to think that nothing is particular about this situation.
Okay, all right, look, I've got to play this for you. Here's where the media is going to go with this. Look at this woman, Alex Witt, on MSNBC, who is an anchor. Look at her reaction and spin after she knew. This is after we learned about today's assassination attempt. Watch this.
Do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence, or would that be atypical of the former president?
Well, Alex, remember back to the assassination attempt on President Trump's life and how, there was talk of a new tone, and then the Republican convention was, by Trumpian standards, muted, and it did seem like he was, just trying to take it down a few notches, but then by the end of his convention speech, we were kind of back to where we started.
That was Elise Jordan of Time Magazine as the guest. Unbelievable. So what this is about is Trump's unwillingness to tone down his... The most controversial thing Trump has said in the past several weeks is that he hates Taylor Swift. That does not get you a bullet or create cable news segments about how you need to lower the rhetoric, right? But calling someone Hitler, that might warrant that kind of a discussion, but we didn't see that. In fact, they're the ones doing that. That's exactly the kind of magazine that was doing that, right? We saw that on the New Republic, that Trump was Hitler. And so, really, even in response to this, once again, the response bill is maybe Trump really needs to tone down his rhetoric.
Yeah, it's essentially victim shaming. It's like you're blaming the target, not the perpetrators, not the people that are calling him Hitler, telling the country that if he gets elected, we lose our country. Not, like they're self-radicalizing these people through their words, but they're saying, President Trump, stop speaking up for yourself, stop running for president, just lay down and let Kamala Harris win. And that's insane. To me, that's the sin. They'll perpetuate this. They'll put a tweet out. There is no room for violence. The same way Kamala said, don't come across the border.
What are you saying?
I mean, you can almost
Just
imagine.
FYI, NBC News is now also reporting the name of the attempted shooter is Ryan Wesley Ruth, R-O-U-T-H. More and more pictures of him are coming out online. I mean, I'll just describe for you. He's got very spiky blonde hair that looks like it's overly gelled or has a lot of product in it. He's rather stylishly dressed in some of these photos that are appearing in social media. He does not look anything like some sort of vagabond. We don't know his story. I'm sure we'll know much more, though. How much more, right? That's one of the questions, Buck. Like, how much? Because we know precious little about the first shooter from Butler, Pennsylvania, and I don't know how much we're going to learn about this guy either, since the new approach seems to be not full accountability, but keep everything under wraps. We never got an explanation for it's unsafe to stand on a slanted roof, and that's why we weren't up there. We've just been lied to at every turn about the first one, and why should we expect anything different about the second?
No, and in fact, I think it's likelier this time that they will, or rather, they will even more easily bury this story and put it in the memory hole and move past this as fast as they. First of all, the president didn't, thank God, didn't actually take a bullet this time, wasn't covered in blood. Right, so the bar in essence on this is such that they'll just say, yeah, well, Secret Service, they fired this guy, they did their job, nothing really to see here, folks, because ultimately this plays into exactly what we're talking about. You're saying it, Bill's saying it, I'm saying it, which is that the Democrat Party should be absolutely ashamed of how they have positioned Donald Trump, who is the duly the duly elected former president and obviously the Republican candidate in this 2024 election cycle. I can tell you, Megan, it was always interesting, to sit down and read both the interrogation transcripts in particular of some of the worst Al-Qaeda terrorists, because, they had this rationalization for their